Today, we're tackling large language models. Can they really understand math? Or are they just super good at pattern matching? Are they real math whizzes or just memorize the textbook? To find out, we're looking at this paper, GSM-Symbolic, Understanding the Limitations of Mathematical Reasoning in Large Language Models.
It really challenges what we think about how LLMs work.
Okay, so the researchers start with this test called the GSM-8K benchmark, 8,000 grade school math problems, like SAT for AI, right?
GSM-8K has problems. It's always the same questions, and a lot of LLMs might have seen them already.
So they created a new benchmark, GSM-Symbolic. This is where it gets cool. Instead of fixed questions, GSM-Symbolic uses templates. Like a recipe, you can change the ingredients, but it's still the same basic thing.
Change names, numbers, add stuff. But the math stays the same, makes the LLMs think, not just memorize.
So there's this example in the paper about bouncy balls. Imagine someone's watching their nephew, lots of toys around. They buy bouncy balls. Now there's 62 toys total. How many bouncy balls were there?
With GSM-Symbolic, we change the person's name, the other toys, the total number. Same math, different look.
That's a math problem in disguise. They tested over 20 LLMs, and the results were all over the place.
What's crazy is same math, just different words or numbers, and some LLMs totally failed.
They do great when the questions are familiar, but change the wording even if it's the same concept, and they bomb.
And get this, most did worse on GSM-Symbolic. So those good scores might be from memorizing, not understanding.
That's kind of scary thinking an AI is smart, but it's just cheating. Since changing how the problem looked messed them up, the researchers looked at two things: changing names and changing the numbers themselves. I bet the numbers were worse.
You got it. Names, no problem. But change the numbers and it all falls apart. Or saying, I know 3 plus 5 because I've seen it, but don't get fancy.
So they're recognizing patterns, not doing math, really. But wait, there's more. The researchers made the problems even harder.
They added or took away parts, some longer and more complex, some shorter, to see how they handle it.
So did making it harder make them struggle more?
Totally. More complex, worse they did, and more their accuracy jumped around, supports the idea that it's pattern matching.
They used this dataset called GSM-Noop, and this is where they get sneaky.
They added info that seems important, but it's totally useless for the math. Problem about apples, but they mentioned the weather. Makes no difference, right?
They tried to use that useless info to do the math.
And it messed them up big time. They try to include it in the calculations.
If it's raining, those apples cost more, even though the problem never said that.
Exactly. They're not thinking about what makes sense, just grabbing any pattern.
Give us an example from the paper, something that really shows this.
All right, so there's this problem about picking kiwis. Someone picks some Friday, some Saturday, then Sunday they take double Friday's amount. But then they add 5 of Sunday's kiwis were smaller.
Hold on, the size doesn't matter, it's the total number.
Right, but 2 LLMs, pretty advanced ones, they fell for it, subtracted those 5 smaller kiwis, got the wrong answer.
Wow, so funny, but also kind of worrying. After all this, what did the researchers conclude? Did they figure out how smart LLMs really are?
Their conclusion is pretty big. LLMs, they're not really doing math. They're amazing pattern matchers, but that's not the same thing.
So what does this mean for AI? Are we on the wrong track, or can we make them truly understand math?
This research is important. It shows us what to focus on. We need to train them differently to get beyond patterns and into real understanding.
It feels like we're at a turning point. LLMs are powerful, but we need to be careful about relying on them for things that need real thinking, like math and science.
And here's something to think about. If even simple math is hard, what about more complex stuff?